Welcome, everyone. I am John Ryan. Thanks for taking time to watch our show. This is a sports betting show. We used to call this the Manny's Irish Pub on Friday afternoons, and I may go back to calling it that after some suggestions to call it that, because that's a much cooler name than a sports betting show, I suppose. But I am pleased to have two guests with me today. We may have two others in the form of Rob Veno from WagerTalk and Rudy Reyes of iHeartRadio and the RudeDogShow.com. But first, I'm going to bring on Jim Coventry of RotoWire. I do a show with him on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So believe me, not being arrogant, but you want to pencil in that on your calendar. And then my good friend and pal and fellow Pennsylvania state resident, Kevin Thomas from SportsMemo.com and a whole bunch of other places. And he's one of the best at what he does as well, which is picking teams and picking winners. We're first going to start with Jim. And, I love doing the DraftKings. And I humbly stated I'm pretty good at the PGA Tour. I've done well over the years. I've gotten lucky, But when it comes to some of these lineups, especially week one in the NFL, it becomes a nightmare, especially at like the running back position this year, which has become kind of irrelevant in the leagues. Some of the names in some of the fantasy leagues I'm in, I couldn't believe how far some of those big names dropped. So, there's Manny in the background. Sorry for that. But anyway, take me through the lineup here and any names that you would say to me, John, you got to have these in your lineups if you want to have any chance of even cashing.
So if we're looking at quarterbacks, I'll give you three. Justin Herbert, 6,900. He faces Miami. Miami is what we call a run funnel defense. That shouldn't change from last year. I know Vic Fangio is in as the coordinator, but this is a team that you could pass on. Jalen Ramsey on IR. It's going to take the defense time to learn the new system of Fangio, and Herbert has his full complement of weapons healthy finally, and Kellen Moore promoting a downfield game. Or Trevor Lawrence, 6,400. I know he's never done anything in a dome, but he had Urban Meyer 1 year, and last year he was still kind of growing. But he gets Calvin Ridley, and Indy is down. They're two only decent corners from last year. They have legitimately a second-round pick. They've got a special teamer in Dallas Flowers, and they have a tiny dude in Kenny Moore. Trevor Lawrence would be great. If you want to go really cheap, now don't gag too hard when I say this, but if you really want to save money at quarterback, Baker Mayfield's 49. And what I'll tell you is this: Minnesota has nobody who can cover anybody, zero. And Mike Evans and Chris Godwin will be open all day long. Baker may be terrible. This might be a week he gets it done. Those are my quarterbacks first.
Well, it sounds like you're leaning kind of on Jacksonville and the Chargers. And honestly, I've been really terrible at the stacks or even just like focusing on a team that I think is going to kick major butt. And needless to say, the Chargers are a team I'm pretty high on for the whole entire season, as you know. And, I think Jacksonville is going to be there too, but there's too much hype behind them right now. It just seems like, between Jacksonville and the Colorado Buffaloes, I don't know which bandwagon is bigger, and I don't want to fall off. So, take me through a little bit of the strategy with how to pick and how many from the same team that you're bullish on.
So I would like to go with a two-player pairing. Some people like to stack a third, and there's certainly merit behind it. And one thing I forgot to mention about Trevor Lawrence, Indy is still excellent against the run. They have Grover, Stewart, and DeForest Buckner in the middle. Teams don't run on them well. So with the deficiencies of the pass game, and so both for Herbert and for Lawrence and for Baker Mayfield, all three of those are good run defenses, and we want to have defense that you can pass against. Those work. Now, as John asked me, who do you pair them with? Justin Herbert, the best pair up here is Mike Williams. Mike Williams and Herbert faced Miami in week maybe 13 last year, Sunday night game. Williams goes 6 for 119 and a touchdown. They really have no answers for him in the secondary. And again, the new offense of Kellen Moore is going to be very heavily slanted toward getting the ball to Williams. If you need a third player stack, you can throw Gerald Everett in there. He's a seam stretching tight end. There would be opportunities as the Dolphins have to really worry about the receivers. But remember, with Fangio's defense, they're going to have to learn, and they pass off players. That communication won't be there. So that'd be your third man stack. With Trevor Lawrence, it's got to be Calvin Ridley. I know he hasn't played in almost 2 years. He runs very crisp out routes, and he also runs the dig routes that come in. Those are routes that are not they're low percent, very high percentage routes. These are throws that Trevor Lawrence specialized in, and he finally has an outside receiver who can win. So that's your pairing. You need a third player with that, Evan Ingram. They use him on horizontal routes to drag the field. They learned he's faster than linebackers, and they figured out how to get him in space. So those would be your stacking situations.
That's awesome. I was thinking of Philadelphia, some of those players, but I'm afraid to take any of those, Kevin. You're a Philadelphia guy, and the reason I'm scared is that the Super Bowl loser generally has a hangover or some kind of overconfidence that they were in the Super Bowl. They're traveling to New England, as everybody knows. Super Bowl losers on the road in week 1, 2-10 against the number. Do we see anybody from the Philadelphia squad that might be undervalued?
So when we're looking at this game, there are a bunch of tiny corners and then newly drafted Christian Gonzalez, who's a little bit bigger. Well, A.J. Brown's a big dude. And those little corners will have no chance against him. If they put Christian Gonzalez on him in his first game as a pro, that's not going to work well. And I don't know what configuration they're going to be able to do to slant a zone up, because they will get crushed on the ground by that offensive line and that Philly running game, Jalen Hurts and the three-headed running back. So realistically, you can never sell out to stop A.J. Brown. So A.J. Brown, if you want to go on a one-off for the Eagles, A.J. Brown would be that high-priced player who could come out roaring out of the gate.
What do you think of the game, Kevin Thomas?
I think it's going to depend on that weather. I'm hearing rain, so I know Belichick. He's gonna stop. Jalen Hurts isn't going to run all over him, so it is going to have to be the short passes and stuff. I think Dallas Goedert would be a great play here too. I don't have any Eagles on my fantasy league, so I would probably stay away from A.J. Brown and go with Dallas Goedert more. Just because I think they'll probably double one over top and then leave the the underneath stuff open for that.
That's an interesting take. It made me think of Devontae Smith as a wild card factor that probably will get in man coverage more times than not in what that lineup you just said, that coverage scheme, I would think.
Yeah, one will be in single. And it'll be A.J. Brown.
So A.J. Brown on the crossers, we didn't see enough of A.J. Brown on the crosser is like literally unstoppable. And those little dudes, if Brown catches a crosser, he is going to run through them, over them, or around them, but they will have no way to deal with him on the slants.
I say this tongue in cheek, but I'll tell you one thing related to college football. I wish Drew Alar was available in my NFL fantasy draft kit for a quarterback, because I've been studying him for a better part of a year now, watching the video that's available and watching him on TV. And I can't wait to see it live. The way that ball comes out of that hand is even faster than a young Tom Brady, in my opinion. It's amazing, the perimeter passes that he's able to get. So I don't know how that's going to translate into my DFS for Sunday football. But if they do have one for college football, that no matter how much he would cost, I think I would be all over it. But he's probably not available because they're playing Delaware. But just that aside, I think he is potentially a number one pick. As I sit here right now, I was so impressed.
Over Williams?
Yeah.
Wow.
I love the arm strength. I'm in love with the arm strength, and I say that in a biblical fashion. He can throw it 80 yards, and you'll probably see that in some of the big games where they get that running game going, and they'll bring the two safeties up, man coverage with those wide receivers as fast as they are. It's going to be like watching Ohio State in different colored uniforms, and I hate to piss off the Penn State fans by saying that, but I think you'll see those crossing routes that are 50-yarders, and it's just a question of how many yards of 40 passes or more this kid's going to throw over the course of the season. But anyway, back to the NFL. I did digress just a hair. Any other key players, Jim, before I let you go on this DFS stuff that we can highlight?
Yeah, I want to give you three players, 2 running backs and a tight end. J.K. Dobbins is 6,600. For his entire career, he's seen stacked boxes because everybody in the world knew the Ravens would run the ball. Well, now they come in. We're expecting 3 receiver, 11 personnel sets with Todd Monken's new system. They're playing the Houston Texans, who have been one of the worst teams against the run for years running. They bring in new personnel. It's going to take time for them, but they're going to have to defend the pass. J.K. Dobbins is a superstar, averaged 7.48 yards per carry in his last 4 games last year when he was finally healthy. So J.K. Dobbins, even though it's going to be a pass offense, if he runs 15 times, he could have an immense stat line. The other running back to look at is Aaron Jones of Green Bay, 6,300 against the Bears. The Bears brought in all these players. They brought in a couple linebackers. They drafted linemen, brought in linemen. First of all, this is going to be a big work in progress. I talk about communication in week 1, that these players haven't played in a game together yet. And that's going to be a problem. And Aaron Jones is going to be a focal point. Romeo Dobbs is limited with a hamstring. Christian Watson missed practice, I believe, all week. They're going to have to lean on Jones. The Bears don't have the personnel to stop it. And I'll give you a tight end to close it out. Tyler Higbee is 4,800 on DraftKings against Seattle. Cooper Kupp is out. It may be a bunch of little screens and they might not pile up yardage, but Tyler Higbee could catch 8 passes in this game. And at 4,800 on DraftKings, even if those 8 catches go for 40 yards and it gets you 12 points, that gets you somewhere close to 3x value, but he could do a little better than that.
Oh, I love that last one because he could catch a touchdown pass just as an afterthought with the defense not paying attention. 3rd and goal from the 7. I think that's a hook up there. Anything going on at RotoWire you want to promote, Jimmy, before I let you go here?
The whole hub is, if you follow me on Twitter at Jim Coventry NFL, all the work I do, it's always like posted there. I'm on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. I'm on Saturdays, 1 to 3 Eastern, Sunday game day, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern. You can definitely catch me there. I do player threads 5 times a week, including player prop threads. I just posted one up. And then finally, I do on the RotoWire YouTube show. John Ryan will be on my show every Saturday of the season, 5 days a week. We do the RotoWire Fantasy Football Live show. John is going to be a staple on that Saturday show. You will not want to miss it. But again, just give me a follow at Jim Coventry NFL. It'll give you the hub to everything I have going on.
Awesome, Jim. Thanks for joining us. I'll let you get to your Friday afternoon activities, and until tomorrow, 11 a.m.
Thanks,
bet with your head not over it, right?
Yep. Thanks, man. Have a great day.
Be great. See you later, Jim. Yeah, what a guy. He's one of the best at DFS, I'm telling you. He's like, I don't mean to sound even remotely arrogant, but there's no need for me to go to anybody else. And it's been like this for now 3 years. And, it's kind of like that old commercial back in the day with Smith Barney when, it was E.F. Hutton, wasn't it? When Smith Barney talks, people listen. Remember those commercials way back in the day?
Nah, I'm too young.
Like Jim Coventry thinks everybody should listen. I'll have to dig one of those up for another show. I guess I was a kid when I heard those. I thought they were really strange. But anyway, how are things with you?
Doing great. I mean, getting a win yesterday with the Lions. That's a great start to the season. College football, just watching some great games. I stayed up and watched that game, though. It was kind of late for me. I'm usually out by 10, but I bit down and watched it, so I'm tired now. That was a long night. Because I wake up around 3:34 every morning. Every morning I'm up. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's being on camera, I look at
midlife
my
crisis.
eyes and I can tell I was up. I was watching the tennis and the football, flipping back and forth. And the tennis went on to like 12:30 because they had a little problem in the stadium. Unfortunately, there was demonstrators, and apparently one of the demonstrators glued his feet to the cement, and they had to bring in special people to get that taken care of, and that delayed, I guess, about an hour. That's unfortunate, but what are you going to do? I know you're looking at the 49ers and the Steelers game, which is an incredibly intriguing week 1 matchup. And, again, the Steelers are coming into a season not really on anybody's radar. Tomlin has never had a losing season and was dramatic in last year's ability to make that record still stand. I believe they won 7 of the last 8 or 6 of the last 7. It was pretty darn good.
Yeah, 9 and 8.
And now they're facing a 49ers team where the expectations are Super Bowl or bust. So wondering if the home dog, because I love home dogs in week 1 and week 2 also. For example, the Giants against the Cowboys. I think the Dallas Morning News come Monday morning is going to be in red. There's going to be big, bold red print that McCarthy has to be fired and bring back Ezekiel Elliott. But I do think the Giants are going to win that game rather convincingly, again, because of hype and a lot of my analytics. But in this specific matchup, Kevin, which team do you like and why?
You know, I started at the lines and I saw 48% of the public and I saw 80% of the money on the Steelers. So right there, I'm already writing down Steelers and I'm watching. That line was, I think it originally opened at 3, bumped down to 2, hanging about 2.5 right now. And then you start looking at the team and what changes they made. So, all right, they went to the Eagles and they got Isaac Salamolo for a left guard. They upgraded their offensive line. They went to the Tampa Bay Bucks and they got Keanu, a strong safety. They got Peterson. I know he's a little aging, but still with Michael Fitzpatrick and him, I think that tandem will work out great. And here's what I did. I went back last year. Who did Brock Purdy play? The Cardinals, the Raiders, the Commanders, Seahawks twice, the Dolphins at home, which I think the defense should get credit for that. 2 interceptions there. He throws maybe 212 yards on average a game. In my eyes, I think Brock is a little overrated. I think he's more of an average quarterback. I think they're going to regret getting rid of Trey Lance so early. I mean, the guy was 2-2 or whatever, and the one game was in a hurricane in Chicago. I think, I guess they see more than we do, but I'm not a Kyle Shanahan guy. I had money on the Falcons in that Super Bowl where at halftime, 28-3 and they lose. I mean, wasn't a fan, not a fan because I'm a Packers fan, not a fan of 49ers, but by no bias here, it's all about making money. I'll bet against my Packers every day if I think they're going to lose. I think the Steelers outright win this game. I think the defense, you got TJ Watt healthy, you got Cam Hayward. I don't see anywhere for Christian McCaffrey to run. If they don't get that running game going, I don't know how healthy Kittle is. I know he's dealing with a groin. He's in my fantasy. He still's got the question mark tag on him. So, I mean, that's my luck. I get Travis Kelce, and then I have Kittle, and both of them might not even play. And then Bosa on the other side just signed his lucrative deal. He hasn't practiced. He was holding out. So they're not even going to play him a full game, they're saying. So that's my thing. Like, back to your Eagles and Patriots thing. People talk about Jalen Hurts, but do they talk about Jalen Hurts, the 200 millionaire now? He got all that money. Now I know he's, he talks a good game. He wants to win. He wants to win the Super Bowl. He's all in, buying in. But back of his mind, he's got hundreds of millions of dollars now. Is he going to be as aggressive as he was? That I always notice when these guys get these big paydays, it doesn't seem like Trey Turner in baseball. Took him a while to get there, but I mean, that's a long season. NFL's a quick season. So I love the Steelers at home here. 2.5. That's a bonus. I'm going to lay a little bit on the money line and walk away with some extra cash, I think.
That was one question I wanted to ask Jim, and I forgot. Kenny Pickett, what do you think of him this year as being not necessarily a dark horse for the MVP, but a guy that's going to be put on the radar that may be the next $200 million man? And I got to think the Steelers win that division if he elevates his game to the next level, whatever that is, and throws, for maybe 10 more touchdowns than last year. They got to be right there in the hunt.
That's the most impressive thing, that Tomlin did this for 16 years in that conference. I mean, as much as we're NFC fans and stuff, the AFC is by far a lot better. I mean, the Eagles could just basically walk to the Super Bowl. The 49ers might be their competition. I don't even know. I mean, who knows? But right now they look like they have the best team, the Eagles. But on that AFC, I mean, you got the Browns now, you got the Bengals. I mean, look at that Browns line, because they're at home. It's a 1 against the Bengals, and everyone's so high on the Bengals. I think the Jets are going to give the Bills fits this week. I'm going to have a premium pick on that, but I guess you can tell where I'm leaning there. The AFC stacked, and it starts with the defenses. I mean, and the Packers have a great defense. It's the Jordan Love is his young receivers and him ready to make the next step, because I mean, they got a stacked backfield with Zaire and all them guys, and they're going to get it. So we'll see what happens.
That's a good observation with Hurts because the coaching staff in their interviews have said that he does the right things at practice. He's literally first guy there, last guy out. But there is that sense of accomplishment. He hasn't won a Super Bowl yet, but we saw last night Detroit is motivated, and they pulled off a win in a sloppy game that wasn't exactly an elegant game by any stretch of the imagination. Kansas City allowed a fourth down conversion from about the Lions 20-yard line, which was that was shocking, but that was fun to watch. But what's your reaction to the Lions, or is there a reaction? Is it just kind of like the Lions won a game and then they're still going to be the second tier in the NFC, or do they have what it takes?
At the beginning of the season, by the end of the season, the team I was worried about the most in the NFC North is the Chicago Bears. Minnesota, I don't think they have a great defense, but they're going to score a lot of points. Detroit Lions, look, if Travis Kelce was playing that game, it's a different game. I mean, there was 3 drop balls, and then the one drop became an interception for 7 points. I don't know what Tony was doing. I mean, when he played for the Giants in limited action, and last year when he got to the Chiefs, he looked good. I mean, he didn't drop none of that. And then you got Sky Moore, who gets three chances, catches 1, and it's called back. And then other than that, he had 2 drops. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was putting them on a dime, and they were open. I mean, those guys were wide open. So that tells me they might have a little bit of problem in their secondary covering, but it is Patrick Mahomes. He does throw a nice ball. And I said, and he does run with it. And that's the thing with Jared Goff. 2 of those, because I had the Lions and they're still losing. Everyone's blitzing from the right side. He's looking at Brown going out. The whole left side's wide open. He needed 4 yards. He could have just ran that. I mean, they turned the ball over there, but then they got it back. But he could have just ran. I don't know. I don't think he had a rushing yard. I'm not even sure. He could have just ran. There was no one near him. He could have got the 4 yards, slid down, never got touched. That's my problem with the Lions. The game has gone to where the quarterbacks have to be mobile, and he just stood in there like a statue. And the fact that he did what he did, that makes me wonder how bad the Chiefs are without Chris Jones. I mean, how bad are they? I mean, pay the guy, I guess, because I know Green Bay wants him. Don't pay him.
I don't think Chris Jones is more valuable to the team than Kelce is.
He might be, yeah. And that game, he might be, because like Jared Goff, if that was against a running quarterback, if they were playing the Eagles there, yeah, Jalen Hurts would have been gone. I mean, he would have scored at least 2 touchdowns rolling out the left side, because I don't know what they got on Jared Goff, but man, I thought last year he would scramble a little bit and run out of bounds and pick up some yards. He just stood there, and I was like, just slow motion. I kept going back, like, why is he not running? Remind me of Aaron Rodgers when he was hurt, and I was crying to get him tossed.
Yeah.
But we covered that.
Oh. You still there?
Yep.
Okay. I didn't hear what you said. It froze.
No, as long as we win our bets, that's all that matters. I could care less. I could care less who suits up. I follow the lines. When I start seeing those lines go, then I did have that pick up a little early. I was excited to see the 6.5 when it opened up, and I didn't know Travis wasn't going to get hurt. I didn't know he was going to get hurt and all that was going to happen. Because then you got to get a little worried as a capper, because when a line drops to 4 and you have a line at 6, I mean, that's some owners of sites will cancel that bet and give back the money, because it's a little unfair, 2.5 points, but they won outright. So I was happy for that.
I was on the ESPN show. No, it was Sports Map Radio, actually, earlier this week. And I mentioned taking Detroit at plus 7.5 when the lines first came out at the circus. So when it was at 4.5 and it looked like Kelce was definitely out, there was a feeling that it was going to go to 3.5. And I did say that at 3.5, I'd be very tempted to buy it back and just take my chances on the middle. That wouldn't have worked out. But I stuck with Detroit, and I reluctantly didn't add anything more to it at 4.5. But, When it seems too good to be true, sometimes it actually does work out in our favor.
Yes.
But I have one little angle here. I'm going to show this graphic quick. This is the one with the Eagles, the Super Bowl loser. We already covered that one, but let me find it here. I better have it. Here we go. Dogs in a divisional matchup in week 1 are 22, 21, and 2 straight up, 31 and 12 against the spread, 72%. Just doing that every single week 1 of the NFL season. I mean, you could just bet that system and not bet the rest of the year and do it for 10 years, and you'd be pretty darn happy. You'd be older, but you'd be happy. If our dog is priced at 6.5 or fewer points, Kevin, 19, 14 straight up, and these are dogs, folks, so you're getting a money line about 250 on average, maybe even plus 300. That's 3-1. And 24 and 8 with 2 pushes for 72% against the spread. That tells us to bet on the Giants, the Packers, the Raiders, the Browns, the Colts, the Panthers, the Rams, and the Jets. And there is more, but I don't have that graphic for some reason, but I apologize. But anyway, it narrows down to taking the Giants, the Jets, and the Panthers. And I gotta love that bet on the Panthers. That's in 100% contrarian. Why would you take the Panthers? But it does, that's when those games in the NFL, on any given week, you get these shockers. Anyway, we had college football. We had 2 big favorites that were ranked lose, and I've done a complete study on that. It's available over at RotoWire, where 20-point favorite, 17.5 point or more favorites actually lose the game more often than people realize. And there was 2 of them in week 1 alone. Over the course of the season, it can get upwards of 20 to 25 games, and the number is increasing over the past 10 years. So these upsets are becoming more and more frequent. However, I think it's absolutely insane. Probably nothing that you and I have ever seen with the Colorado Buffaloes. Deion Sanders, I get it, Hall of Fame head coach, did not like his post-game press conference all that much. A little bit too much hype sometimes and too much talking. And, the college football gods don't really appreciate that very much. This line opened at the circuit with Nebraska as a 10-point favorite. And after 1 game, we are now Colorado minus 3.5. It's moved 13.5 points. I can't remember a time where that happened. But I can tell you, Kevin, I'm taking Nebraska, and may the chips fall where they may.
I'll bet you every Joe Square is going to be on that Colorado team.
Can you imagine how big that bandwagon is? It must have about 18 wheels. It's 42,000 bets were made as of yesterday on Colorado.
They don't talk about TCU losing their best coach or offensive coordinator or anything. It's all about Deion Sanders. So yeah, it's very overhyped, overrated, and they almost came back. So yeah. I will have a premium bet on that, so I guess everyone will know by now.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the squares and the pros will be on Nebraska if they're going to bet the game at all. But there again, in game, if Colorado comes flying out of the gate and gets out to a 7 or 10 point lead, then you take Nebraska at that point. Yeah, and I know it's psychologically it's hard to pull the trigger on that if you've never done it, but when you do it, as long as I have, and as long as you have, Kevin, it's kind of like there's the opportunity. Now I'm getting a line that's approaching double digits with the team that I think is going to win the game. And that becomes insane not to take the opportunity to take that risk. They don't always win. But I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Colorado get clobbered tomorrow because Rule must be licking his chops at a defense that allowed 500 yards to TCU. I mean, they don't talk about that. You're right. They won the game. It was dramatic, great for Colorado, but that doesn't mean they're in the college football playoff. There was a lot of good things to say, but they got a long way to go before I'm convinced that they are the next coming of Alabama. Before I let you go, any promotions that you have going for the weekend at any of the sites that you're on? You have the stage for as long as you want.
Well, I'm over at Memo, and right now I'm running 149 for the whole month. That's all access. I'm calling it my Christmas in September. So you got till October 1st. WNBA, I'm ranked number 1 over there. College football, NFL, I'm 1-0 already. MLB, cash into big dog tickets. You get all access to all those sports that I cap for the whole month. The rest of the month, $149. That's a steal of a deal. So you might want to hop over there, and that's a lot cheaper than buying single picks every day, or just even if you just bet football and college football, it's still going to run you up over $200-$300 for the month.
Yeah, there's no doubt that 149 is a deal. It's like $3. No, what is it, like $5 a day? It's like, just don't drink an extra IPA every night, and you got his service.
Well, it's my first year doing WNBA, and I find it's really easy because the women don't take days off. They show up unless they are hurt, really hurt. But other than that, they show up. So the lines are really good. Seems to be more of a square sport that you can bet the square, especially like the totals and stuff. So if you find those trends and stuff, it's pretty easy. Right now, I've been struggling because I keep thinking, why is this team playing? They're already locked in the playoffs. They can't move up, So I kind of overthink it a little bit. They don't get the fans. So when they have a home game, it's basically their home fans. That's it. It's not like everyone there to see LeBron or something. It's their home fans. So these players play up at home. So you always want to ride the home teams. I mean, look at Phoenix Mercury. They had one road win the whole season. And I thought they'd be a lot better, especially, but they're an old veteran team. And Bryner was having some mental issues and stuff and dealing with injury. And so when she's in there, she's a beast. But sometimes, she had a rough year, I could say, I guess, last year and stuff with everything going on. So,
yeah, for sure. Looks like an Aces Liberty collision course for the finals. Those two teams are setting all kinds of records, but that's why they have the playoffs.
I did like the Dallas Wings for a long shot, but the way the way Brianna's stepping up and stuff, and that team's starting to gel because they brought 2 or 3 of those girls in at the beginning of the season, paid them the money to come there and play. Now they're gelling. It's going to be tough for the Aces. I mean, just look at that Commissioner's Cup. Jeez, they hammered them, and that was for, I think the winner got $30,000 a player, and the losers got $5,000. So if you're a young lady not making a lot of money, that's the game you want to show up for, in my opinion, and play your heart out. And Liberty just handed it to them, and it didn't even count because if that game counted, Liberty would actually have the edge then because they'd have a tie record and they'd have more wins over them. So very interesting stuff. I really like the WNBA. It's as a capper, if you're at the top, you can make some money. That's why I ran that special, because I've done very well in WNBA and it's
you froze, but I think I heard what you were saying there. All good.
Yeah, so I got this new computer, and I'm trying to figure it out. I had to download Chrome to do StreamYard, and I usually use a camera, and it hooked up to the phone, and it actually hooked up to the computer and looked decent. Like if I try to do a YouTube video on the computer itself, it's horrible. So I use my cell phone and actually link in. So I had it all set up to do that, and then when I came on, it actually looked decent. So I didn't even hook my phone up, but I noticed when you guys were talking, it would glitch. I could still hear you just talk, but you'd both freeze up. So I was hoping I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to ruin anything because I know it's a live show. So, but John, I appreciate you having me on here and stuff. I mean, you do some great work, and I love your stats and your analysis of everything. I use your stuff too. I mean, when I read it, when you post it, I know you're big on Twitter. You got a huge following. I take some of those and I make some private bets too on myself. I mean, I do a lot of little bets because then I'll parlay them all. And I love props. I think that's the way the future's going with props, because these young kids in the fantasy, it's all about their player getting this. So if they have them in fantasy, they're going to expect it and then bet the money on that instead of betting the games. But doesn't matter. We'll conform, right?
Yeah. I appreciate the compliment, and the same to you as well. That's why you're on the show. I only bring the best on here. And I guess lastly, I'm college football has been ridiculous for me. When I was over at SportsMemo, I was first in consecutive seasons, and started out this week 9-3, and realistically, there's going to be not every week's going to be 9-3, not every week's going to be 4-1. There's going to be that 0-4. It's going to happen. It happens every year. I just hope it's not this week. But I do like Nebraska quite a bit, and probably too much. And maybe I'm just being a bonehead about being, so much contrarian sentiment. I can't even stand it.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting. I'll be watching that game for sure. I think Notre Dame is ripe for an upset for what that's worth. I think Wisconsin will steam Washington State for what that's worth. And I'm telling you, this Drew Allar kid, I am just so impressed with the accuracy, the poise, the leg strength. I mean, when he runs, he's not going to run a 4.4 40, but there's a lot of programs in the Big Ten that don't have the big athletes that are the 4 and 5 star recruits.
So what took them so long? What took them so long? I mean, they felt they owed Clifford because like I stopped coaching, but the 3 of the girls I was coaching, they have older siblings that all go to Penn State, so the parents go to all the games, and they've been crying for him for a while now. For 2 years since he came in as a freshman, they all wanted to see him play, and it kind of worries me a little bit because now Clifford's my backup for the Packers. If Jordan Love gets hurt, should I be worried? Is Clifford that horrible? I mean, why wouldn't Allar jumped him in the pecking order last season?
Well, Clifford has all the records at Penn State.
Well, he's like a 6-year senior, right?
Yeah, he did play a lot of games. I think there's 2 other players historically that played more. But nevertheless, he set the record. And I think what they were doing, that's the first 5-star recruit that James Franklin has had at quarterback position. So it makes sense to me that they brought him in as slow as possible. Why? Experience, age, complete the required courses academically, so he takes a lesser load in the years that he is playing as a starting quarterback. And he learns the system through and through. And he seems to be, he looks like he's 15 years old. It's just amazing. But obviously he has a man's body, and he's 6'4", 243. He's just a monster. But, he looks like he doesn't look anything like it when you look in, beyond the face mask. But it's fun. It's really going to be fun to see how that team evolves. And I still think Texas and Penn State, I made that bet for the championship game. And it was just a ridiculous odds. I forget what it was, 38-1, I guess. And that obviously is going to come down, especially if Texas upsets Alabama, which is another weird line, 7, and it's been rock solid despite public betting on Alabama. So that's got me scratching my head too. And that's an in-game bet. If Alabama scores first, I'm probably going to throw a couple pizza money bets on Texas and, see what happens. But anyway, we could probably talk for another 4 hours, and by then there'd be nobody watching us.
I'm going to get off and watch us.
Yeah.
I want to see if I was glitching.
Well, Rob Veno was having his security system checked. That's why he didn't join us. And next Friday, we'll have Jim on again from RotoWire. We'll have Rudy Reyes possibly, Rob Veno, maybe some of the other guys from WagerTalk. Who knows? And you're always welcome on Friday as a regular guest.
Oh, yeah. I love talking football. No problem here. No problem.
And we'll have a lot to talk about no matter what the results are with the NFL for sure. There's going to be some headline news. That is the one thing you can bet on for sure. All right. Thanks again, Kevin. And for everybody watching the show, thank you very much. Make sure you get over to sportsmemo.com and get Kevin's special 149 package. And my site is the predictiveplaybook.com, where you can get my college football picks, all detailed over there with price structures that I think are affordable for everybody. So until the next show, you always remember one thing from this show: bet with your head, not over it, and may all the wins be yours.